So my role in SEANET is in Theme 1, which is sort of about the carrying capacity for aquaculture economically, socially, and environmentally. And what I'm looking at is I'm on the detritus team. So I'm looking at the role of detritus as a potential food source, detritus being dead organic matter, as a potential food source for commercially important bivalve species. Bivalves include shellfish species such as the blue mussel, which I'm working with, oysters, scallops, things like that. My study is looking at the utilization and digestibility of detritus in these blue mussels. So currently we're growing detritus in the lab. We basically just rot phytoplankton, and then we do a bunch of chemical tests on it and feed it to the mussels. And we're seeing how much of this detritus the bivalves can actually absorb and use for energy and growth. So right now we're actually just doing it by measuring growth because we're working with really small mussels, which is a really important part of the growth phase, but you can't actually use the traditional methods of measuring things like filtration rate with such small animals. So you just measure each animal at the beginning, get that ratio, and then you can measure out the food, you know the dry weight conversion, and feed them that on a daily basis. So these guys grow 2 to 4 weeks before we do any growth measurements, before and after. It could be really significant in a lot of ways. If detritus does play a major role in nutrient acquisition for the bivalves, it could bring a new degree of accuracy to growth modeling that farmers use. It could also open up a lot of new potential growing sites, places that we don't currently think you can grow bivalves. Maybe there is actually a lot of potential there for commercial viability for farms. The thing that's probably the most exciting for me is the potential for detritus to relate to polyculture aquaculture, which is essentially growing more than one species at the same time on the same farm. So if shellfish, say mussels, can eat detritus, and if they can distinguish between the good detritus and the bad detritus, then maybe they can eat things that are leaching off of kelp out a kelp farm, or kelp that's grown on the same farm. So you could grow scallops and mussels and oysters all together on the same farm. So that's a really exciting direction for me, because I think that polyculture aquaculture is really where sustainable aquaculture and even just sustainable food production in general needs to go next.